I'm James from Woodland Classroom. One of the things that we do is teach traditional woodland skills to all kinds of people. And today I want to share some of that knowledge with you. We're going to be making barbecue charcoal. This method is perfect for anyone who's got a bit of land, a small bit of woods, maybe a small holding, and then wants to make a bit of charcoal for themselves quickly and easily. So the one piece of equipment you are going to need to do this is what you can see behind me, the old 45-gallon oil drum. This is a used one that I picked up from a scrapyard for £20, so very cheap, but we've done a few modifications to turn it into a makeshift charcoal kiln, and I want to show you what I've done there. First of all, make sure it's relatively clean. If it's had any oil or paint or anything in it, make sure you drained all that out beforehand. You don't want that getting into your first charcoal burn. What I've done here is cut off the base of the drum, but I deliberately left a lip, as well as a few parts of the lip which stick out, which you can see. This forms the lid here. This is the offcut obviously, and then when the charcoal kiln is this way up, this lid will go in, we'll twist it round, and that's what will seal it in place, and you'll see why we need to do that later. From a safety point of view, always wear big thick gloves. You're creating lots of sharp edges on the metal here, and when you're handling the kiln, you don't want to catch your hand on that. On the other side, you can see that we've taken off the screw cap and left that. We've also made two more holes here, about 2 inches across, and there was already another hole here. We've just prized that cap off too. These are vents which are going to let the air in and also let the smoke out later. So we've made our own lid out of the base of this oil drum. You might be able to get hold of one of the ones that actually has a closable lever with a proper removable metal lid, and that might work fine, but after a couple of burns you might find that that mechanism distorts due to the heat. Last bit of preparation for your charcoal kiln before your first charcoal burn is to actually set a little fire in it, have a little bonfire. If it's an old drum, it might well have had all kinds of stuff in it, so the fire is going to burn off residue and make sure you've got a good clean barrel to start with for your first charcoal burn. If your drum's new, there's no need to do that. When you're loading your kiln full of wood ready for the burn, make sure that you pack in that wood as tight as possible. Crisscross it in and fill up all the gaps. There's kind of two reasons for that. Firstly, the wood is going to reduce down as it makes charcoal, so you could end up with as little as a third or a quarter of what you've put in. So you want to get the most out of that burn. And secondly, you're filling up all those air gaps as well, and that comes into play when you're trying to clamp down the kiln later and starve the wood of any air. So once you've filled your kiln up with wood, leave a little bowl at the top and in the middle, because in that hole you're going to put a charge of charcoal. Of course, if this is your first charcoal burn, you're going to have to go out and buy some. Put a bit of charcoal in there in the top, and then put some paraffin on it as well. Once you've got your charcoal charge soaked with a bit of paraffin, you're going to set light to that, and that's going to get your kiln going. You need to leave that to really get some heat in and start burning the wood around it. It's better to leave it for too long than for too little. If you leave it too little and you close it down too early and flip the barrel around, you're going to find that the fire is going to go out. So it's better that you lose a little bit of wood and you know that that heat's going to stay in the kiln. So that charcoal charge is going nicely now. It's not quite ready for the lid to go on and for the kiln to be turned over. What I've done though in the meantime is prepared the spot to stand the upside down kiln on. You can see the bricks and an area of turf as well. Having lit the charcoal charge, I left it about half an hour for it to get up to heat, and then there was a good flame going and some of that wood was really starting to burn in the top of the kiln.
Is everybody out with the camera? I get to do stuff like this.
So then it's ready to turn it over. Get my gloves on, get the lid, push the lid on, twist it onto the top so it's firm on. I actually used a couple of hazel sticks as well, just to wedge in there to make sure that that lid wasn't going to fall off. And then I take the whole barrel and flip it round upside down and put it on bricks to prop it up, which lets the air get in.
Under?
No.
Right. Okay.
You can always adjust the bricks later. Just get it the right way up first. That way, that hot charge is now at the base of the kiln and it's going to work its way up right through all the wood, and you get the steam out the top, which is what we're seeing now. It's important that we don't lose any of the charcoal that we're making inside the kiln. So we need to understand what's going on inside that kiln. And to do that, we need to watch the smokes. and there's 3 stages of smoke to look out for. The first stage you're going to get is thick white smoke, and this is mostly the water vapour being burned away. You're going to see this for the longest. Secondly, you're going to get a thinner smoke, which is a blue colour. This is when we're starting to get towards charcoal. You might also get a short burst of yellow here with some woods. Lastly, the smoke is going to thin again, and you're going to get a clear smoke, and it's at that point we need to shut the kiln down. Okay, so we've got stage 2 of the smoke starting to appear now. You can see the white over on that side and the blue smoke, which is slightly thinner smoke, starting to appear here. It's not all even, so what I'm going to do is give the barrel a smack with a stick and also give it a bit of a shake just to settle any of the wood, and then we'll probably get some more white smoke, and then hopefully we'll get blue all over. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so we're going to give this thing a bit of a shake to try and settle any wood. Obviously I've got big thick gloves on. Occasionally you hear a log when you're watching it settle and fall, but this should hopefully get it all moving even, and what we should get now is a big plume of white smoke again, because we're starting to kind of burn off that water again, and then we want the whole thing to go blue, that thin blue smoke that we saw earlier. I'm just going to give it a bit of a tap with this stick just to settle in any wood which might be hanging at the top there and not falling down to the bottom. We want an even burn. I didn't hear anything settle there. Once you get to the stage where there's clear smoke coming out of the top of the kiln, that's where we're burning charcoal, which is not what we want. It's time to shut the kiln down. To do that, we need to exclude the air from the kiln. The first thing we're going to do is take away the props, which are underneath at the base of the kiln, so then the kiln sits directly on the ground. Next, we're going to get some cuttings of turf. We're going to turn them upside down so the turf is sitting on the top of the kiln, and that's going to close off the vents and seal them off. Once the top of the kiln is nicely sealed, you need to seal the base of it as well. So pile and pack soil around the base of that whole kiln, sealing it off. Look out for any wisps of smoke escaping at the base of the kiln as well. If you see any smoke, be sure to plug those gaps. That's important. If smoke's getting out, then air can get in and you can lose charcoal. So what wood should you burn to make charcoal? Well, for the best results, use the same species of wood, ideally cut down all at the same time. That way, all that wood in the kiln is going to have the same level of moisture content, and so it's going to burn evenly. Which species of wood should you use? Well, hardwoods, ash, oak, sycamore, hazel, birch. These are the ones that are going to work best. In my experience, softwoods just produce a lot of dust. But if you want biochar, then that would work out fine. While I'm watching the smoke on the kiln, I'm sat on a traditional charcoal burner's stool. As you can see, it's only got one leg. Back in the days when there'd be charcoal burners up and down the country in the woods, they would issue this stool to whoever drew the short straw for watching the burn overnight. The design of one leg meant that you get a nasty surprise if you fell asleep on the job. So the kiln behind me is properly shut down. I haven't seen any wisps of smoke appearing for about 5 minutes. So now it's just going to bake overnight, cool down, and we'll open it up in the morning. So your charcoal kiln has been shut down overnight. It's time to open it up and see what we've got inside. When you are unloading the charcoal, just be aware that the charcoal dust gets everywhere. It's sensible to wear a dust mask, and some people like to wear eye protection. The next stage is to grade the charcoal by size, because we only want the best lumpy charcoal going into the bags. And to do this, you use a traditional tool called a riddle. That looks good.
I'm going to get the box out first.
But the dust that falls through does not go to waste. That makes biochar, which is really useful as a soil improver. Let's take a look at the final product, see what we've got. There it is, I'm pretty pleased with that. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to make. I wouldn't say it's a clean job, but a very satisfying job. And one of the good things about making it is that, you know, we're not buying into the destruction of the rainforest with all the cheap imported charcoal that comes in. And all that stuff's inferior as well. You know the source of this, you can trust it. It's hardwood, it burns hotter, it burns longer, and it will take a light with a match. So I found it really satisfying. That's good stuff, that. That's the whole process from start to finish. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll try charcoal making for yourself at home.